Have you ever stopped to think why everything forbidden seems so irresistible? It doesn't matter if it's that slice of cake while you're on a diet, an impossible love, or even something society has labeled as off-limits. It's almost as if our minds are wired to crave exactly what we can't have. But what if I told you this attraction isn't just a whim, but a deep mechanism in our brain? A secret philosophers and psychologists have been trying to unravel for centuries. Now, let me challenge you. Do you really know why you desire what you can't have? Or are you being driven by forces you can't even imagine? The curious thing is that what seems like a simple desire might reveal much about who you are, how you think, and even what society is trying to hide. Believe me, understanding this can change the way you see the world and yourself in ways few can imagine. Ever noticed how we tend to want what we can't have? It feels like some sort of cosmic joke. You decide to cut sugar from your life, and suddenly that cake you never cared about starts calling your name. This isn't just a whim. It's your mind playing philosophical games with desire. Psychologists and philosophers have been scratching their heads over this for centuries, trying to understand why you can't triggers I want. And you know what? The answer might lie more in the forbidden itself than in the thing we desire. Think about this. Why does something rare or exclusive seem more valuable? Like those last chance sales that make us feel like we have to act before the world ends. That's the scarcity effect, a powerful trigger that messes with our heads. Exclusivity, the idea that only a few can have something, activates a psychological mechanism that makes us chase after it like it's gold. And here's the funny part. Often when we get it, the magic fades. This reminds me of banned books throughout history. The more they were censored, the more people wanted to read them. It seems like what's denied gains a special allure. It's not just about the object itself, but the thrill of defying the rule, you know. It's almost as if the forbidden dares us to prove we're in control of our own desires. And if that makes you think, wait until you understand how we react when we feel our freedom slipping away. Ah, freedom. It seems like we only realize how much it matters when someone tries to take it away. Psychological reactance, as philosophers and psychologists call it, is the spark that ignites when we feel controlled. You know when someone says, "You can't do that," and suddenly it's the only thing you want to do. That's your mind shouting, "I'll do what I want." It might seem rebellious, but deep down, it's just us trying to reclaim what we think we've lost. Here's a classic example, kids. Tell a child they can't touch something, and it instantly becomes the most coveted treasure in the universe. But it's not just kids who fall into this trap. When a company limits a product or a Netflix series disappears from the catalog, our desire for it skyrockets. It's the same logic. The more we hear "you can't," the more we want to prove we can. It's as if the forbidden taps into our sense of personal power. And this reactance doesn't just apply to objects or entertainment. It's present in relationships, habits, and life itself. Take restrictive diets, for instance. It's as if the freedom to choose is essential for us to feel whole. And that makes us wonder, does mystery and the unknown play a significant role in this equation? After all, what's out of reach always seems more interesting. There's something about the unknown that really gets to us, right? It's as if our minds are programmed to explore, seek answers, and uncover what's hidden. From ancient philosophers to modern psychologists, this curiosity has been discussed as one of the most powerful forces of the human mind. We look at the stars, try to decipher the universe's mystery, and at the same time, get intrigued by the secrets of the human soul. Who hasn't felt that chill down their spine just thinking about what lies behind a closed door? Think about the books and movies that captivate us. How many stories start with a mystery? The unknown draws us in because it challenges us, pulling us out of our comfort zones. A simple example. Who hasn't become obsessed with something just because they didn't have all the information? It could be an exotic place you saw in a photo or a philosophical theory you only half heard. It's as if what we don't understand automatically becomes fascinating because deep down, we want to be the ones with the answers. But the unknown also has its dangers, right? Precisely because it's mysterious. It can seduce us and sometimes lead us down risky paths. That's why rebellion and breaking rules are so closely tied to our fascination with the hidden. Could it be that society, with all its norms and prohibitions, is actually creating more mystery around what it tries to hide? It's worth pondering. Society's rules are like train tracks. They keep everything in order, but also limit direction. And then comes rebellion, the urge to jump off the tracks and explore the unknown. Since the beginning of time, social norms have told us what's right and wrong. But who hasn't felt that urge to do the opposite just to see what happens? The restless human mind has a taste for breaking rules and testing boundaries. Sometimes, rebellion isn't just stubbornness. It's a way of asserting who we are. Think about major cultural and social movements. How many of them were born from people challenging conventions? From Enlightenment philosophers to the rock artists of the 70s, rebellion has been a powerful tool for changing the world. Of course, not every rule-breaking act has a noble cause. Sometimes it's just the desire to feel free, to escape predictability. Who hasn't wanted to do something forbidden just for the thrill of it? But here's an interesting detail. The more forbidden something is, the more it seems to attract us. It's as if society, by establishing what's wrong, automatically creates its opposite, the allure of the forbidden. This appears in myths and stories we've heard since childhood. The forbidden fruit, for instance, isn't just a temptation. It's an invitation to curiosity and transgression. Could this idea be behind many of the lessons we've learned? Myths. They have a curious way of reflecting our deepest desires. Take the classic story of Adam and Eve, for example. The idea of the forbidden fruit isn't just a religious tale, but a powerful metaphor for human nature. After all, what's forbidden always seems sweeter, more tempting. Philosophers and psychologists love to use this narrative as a starting point for understanding why we crave what we're told to avoid. It's as if the prohibition itself is the spice that makes everything more interesting. And it doesn't stop there. Think of the myth of Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods to give to humanity. He knew there would be consequences, but the allure of the unknown and forbidden power was stronger. These stories share a common thread. They show how the pursuit of the forbidden is tied to the idea of evolution, of going beyond what's allowed. Deep down, who hasn't felt that impulse to challenge the status quo to discover something new? These narratives also shape how we view morality. Is what's forbidden truly wrong? Or has it just been labeled that way by societal norms? Literature is full of examples that play with this idea, provoking deep reflections about what's right and wrong. This leads us to a fascinating question. Could it be that our brains, with all their complexities, are wired to find pleasure in transgression? The human brain is an intriguing machine. When we encounter something risky or forbidden, it rewards us with a generous dose of dopamine, the pleasure chemical. Have you ever wondered why so many people love extreme sports or breaking small rules? It's not just about the act itself, but the rush that comes afterward. It's almost as if the brain is saying, "Go ahead, dare one more time." This helps explain why risk and transgression are so seductive. Experiments show this reaction is almost automatic. When danger or the forbidden comes into play, our reward system kicks in, urging us to seek more of that stimulus. You know that irresistible urge to press a button labeled "Do Not Touch." That's dopamine talking. Interestingly, philosophers like Nietzsche reflected on this impulse long before science confirmed what we feel firsthand. And the most fascinating part? It's not just about pleasure, it's also about learning. The sense of risk makes us more alert, more focused, as if we're ready to face anything. Perhaps that's why bold actions make us feel so alive. But have marketers and companies already discovered the secret to grabbing our attention? You'll see how this connects fascinatingly to the world of marketing. Marketing knows exactly how to play with the human mind, doesn't it? A powerful strategy is to tap into the fascination with the forbidden. Remember those commercials with phrases like, "Not for minors under 18," or "So exclusive, only a few will get it"? That's no accident. Brands understand that when something seems out of reach, desire grows. It's like a modern reinterpretation of the forbidden fruit story, but with ad campaigns instead of serpents. A great example is limited releases. When a brand says only 100 units of a product exist, people rush to get theirs. That's scarcity at work in full swing. Moreover, slogans suggesting "break the rules" or "challenge limits" also appeal to our desire to transgress. Who hasn't bought something just because it felt rebellious, daring, or different from the conventional? This works because, deep down, we're drawn to what's rare and bold. Campaigns that play on the forbidden speak directly to our curious, adventurous side. But this kind of strategy also raises interesting ethical questions about desire. How far can, or should, marketers go in exploiting this part of our minds? Perhaps it's time to reflect on how our desires are being manipulated, which, by the way, leads us straight into a deep debate about morality. It's fascinating how human desires are always intertwined with the rules of morality. From a young age, we learn what's right and wrong, but the truth is, inside each of us, there's a constant tension between what we want and what we're told to avoid. Philosophers have always pondered this. Is desire a rebellious force that needs control, or is it an essential part of our humanity? Thinking about this is like looking in the mirror and asking yourself, how far are you willing to go to satisfy what you desire? Think about it. How many times have you wanted something you knew was wrong? It doesn't have to be something grand. It could be that slice of cake while on a diet. This tension between wanting and should is what makes us human. Psychologists say that, often, our desires reflect the rules we try to follow. And then comes the question, Are these rules fair, or were they created just to shape our behavior? And of course, you can't talk about desire without thinking about its ethical impact. When we seek what's forbidden, we're questioning more than just the rules. We're challenging the systems around us. It's almost as if every choice is a declaration of who we are. And you know what's curious? The more we reflect on this, the more we realize that desire, morality, and the forbidden are just parts of a greater quest for meaning. But are we ready to understand what really drives us? The truth is, understanding this mechanism could be the key to taking control of your own mind. So tell me, what are you holding back from doing because of rules or norms you were told were unchangeable? Is what you desire truly out of reach? Or is it the idea of the forbidden that's holding you back? Think about how you can apply all this to your life. Question your choices, analyze your desires, and most importantly, decide whether you want to keep following the script someone else wrote for you or write your own. After all, what's stopping you from changing the game? The journey to understand what attracts you to the forbidden might be the first step to breaking free and building something far greater. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, we keep unraveling the mysteries of the mind and bringing reflections that truly make a difference. Now it's up to you. What's the next step on your journey?